OC. Viewer discretion is advised. Incoming transmission in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's going on, everybody? It's Corny here from the Outcasted OC podcast, and welcome to the Monday Night Raw recap. Let's just jump straight into it. So this week, at the beginning of the show, we got to see Io Sky and Damage Control arriving to the arena, as well as Lyra, Valkyria, Imperium, and Jey Uso. Sami Zayn actually started the show this week. He comes out to cut a promo, and he welcomes everybody to Monday Night Raw. He mentions how we are 5 days out from the King and Queen of the Ring PLE in Saudi Arabia. He puts over the triple threat match that he has with Chad Gable and Bronson Reed at the event, and he talks about how he's got 2 different issues coming out from both contenders within this match. Talks about how it's very personal for him with Chad Gable. Obviously Chad really helped him get towards beating Gunther at WrestleMania, and how he wants to give him an absolute ass kicking, and how Bronson, it's more of a professional issue that he has, and obviously holds up the title and goes, he wants the IC title, like this is what he's after. He talks about how there's 3 different kind of aspects when it comes to this match. You've got the mind, body, and the soul. He said within this match, Chad Gable is the mind, Bronson Reed is the body of this match, and I am the soul, and you never want to bet against the soul. You always want to bet for the soul. And he says that he's going to come out of King and Queen of the Ring still the Intercontinental Champion. When we see Chad Gable and the rest of the Alpha Academy come out, Chad's like, I coached you. I found out for a very long time that I have been way too nice, and he calls everybody in the Alpha Academy clowns and just doesn't understand why he's associating with them anymore. He calls Otis a disappointment, which the crowd really did not like this. The crowd is really getting behind Otis again, and I saw a free Otis sign in the crowd, and I honestly loved it so much. I feel like Otis really just needs a nice hug. Not from me though, but like he needs a hug from somebody who's going to help him get out of the chains of Chad Gable. Amy responds with, why are you guys all taking this crap from Chad? Like, it's absolutely pathetic. He said he's going to pin you and he's going to take your soul. We obviously see that Chad and Sami are both actually in ring gear, so he's like, how about we just don't wait until King and Queen of the Ring? How about we give everybody an early preview? So we had the match between Chad and Sami. Now this wasn't for the Intercontinental Championship. This was basically just for bragging rights. Sami comes out of this match super hot and hits a really nice elbow onto Chad. The Alpha Academy are ringside, and you can tell that Chad Gable wants them to help, but they're kind of unsure of how they're going to go about it. Then we hit the commercial break, but when we come back, Chad Gable's on the attack. We see Sami hitting a really nice clothesline, and then Chad ends up reversing this with a really nice suplex. We end up seeing that Chad uses Maxine at one point as a shield from Sami, and he tries to get Tozawa involved, but both of them just can't bring themselves to help Chad Gable out in a mean way. So Chad ends up like sending both of them out of the arena. He's like, I don't want you guys around, like you guys can leave. Sami ends up capitalizing on this moment by hitting a blue thunderbomb, and then we hit another commercial break. But when we come back, they're both going crazy at each other. They're both just exchanging blows, and Chad ends up locking in the ankle lock. But in this match, where it looks like Otis is really struggling to find a way to help out Chad Gable, Chad goes ringside, slaps him, and then goes back into the ring, and then Otis ends up finding the courage within to actually help beat Sami Zayn for Chad Gable. Now, I just was really disappointed by this. I was like, Otis, come on. Like, I know that you are stuck in this friendship with somebody who is like this, but you deserve better. Chad ends up hitting the Chaos Theory on to Sami Zayn to take away the win. I really enjoyed this match. I thought it was really good. I think the layers of storytelling for Chad Gable's progression as a heel character really helped this, as well as the unsureness of the rest of Alpha Academy, not really too sure how they're going to work with Chad, how they want to help Chad, if they want to be still in his group. It's very interesting how they do this. We had a really cool video package come in for Io Sky. She was underwater cutting a promo in Japanese, not actually cutting the promo in Japanese underwater, but there was Japanese text while she was talking, and there was visuals of her in the ocean or in water or something, and she's talking about how she is going to be the Queen of the Ring. And then we end up seeing Bron Breakker is going to be having his debut match on Monday Night Raw this week. I'm very excited to talk about this one. We cut backstage. Jackie Redmond is trying to catch up with the Alpha Academy, but there ends up being some commotion backstage, and we end up finding out that Carlito attacked Cruz del Toro from the LWO. Zelina's asking for help. Everyone's running around. It's just absolutely chaotic. So we never got to hear from the Alpha Academy, but we ended up finding out there is more turmoil with the LWO. But back to the ring, where we have Bron Breakker's first debut match on Monday Night Raw against Kale Dixon. I believe he is from NXT Level Up. I'd never heard of him because I unfortunately do not watch NXT NXT Level Up. But this match was not even really a match. This was just give Bron Breakker a guy to absolutely obliterate and show how powerful he is. So he hits a super explosive spear straight out of the gate on this guy, and then he ends up throwing him outside of the ring, and then the guy's trying to run away, but Braun ends up following him and hits him with another spear outside of the ring, and then they end up getting back in the ring, and the guy Kale, he's like, I literally can't do it. Like, the ref ends up calling off the match, and Braun's like, I only speared you twice, like, how are you going to do this? The ref is holding Kale, and then he ends up spearing him again, and then we end up seeing, them go outside of the ring. A whole bunch of security is just trying to pull Braun away, but then we end up seeing that he ends up trying to lift up the ring steps. The ring steps end up getting dropped down, and then Kale's head ends up getting smashed in between the chair and the ring steps, just absolutely causing utter chaos for his debut match and just showing how powerful he is. Then we end up going backstage, and we're seeing that Adam Pearce is leading out Kale on a stretcher. Kiana James comes in and is like, hey Adam, like, how can I help you? He's like, no, don't need this right now. They're leading him off in a stretcher to put him into the ambulance, and then the ambulance gets sent away, and there's a really cool moment that Adam ends up having with Bron Breakker. Now this is obviously like related to the Steiner Bros. He's like, I'm not good at maths, so make this add up for me. What were you thinking? And Bron was like, you can't control me. You kept me out of the King of the Ring tournament, and that's on you. So you can definitely see that Bron Breakker is going to make Adam Pearce's life a living hell, and I cannot wait to see it. Video recap from the match between Io Sky and Shayna Baszler from last week, as well as the match between Zoe Stark and Lyra Valkyria, leading into the semi-finals for the women for the Queen of the Ring match. And then we ended up seeing Lyra is getting ready backstage, and Becky ends up running into her and is trying to hype her up for the match, and is like, show her who's boss, show them why this is all worth it, show them that this is your moment. Like, she's obviously hyping her up, and she's doing a phenomenal job. We make our way back to the ring where we have the match between Lyra Valkyria and Io Sky. Now, I cannot believe this is the first time they have ever actually wrestled each other, because this was a phenomenal match. I really enjoyed it. Both Lyra and Io had really good in-ring chemistry. A lot of their moves very much blended well together, so I really enjoyed it. Lyra and Io both end up working each other in different sequences, different pinning combinations, trying to get a quick win on each other, and then we hit a commercial break. But when we come back, Io's turned the tide on Lyra, and she's absolutely terrorizing her. She's punishing her in any way that she can. Lyra ends up buying herself some more time by suplexing Io, and then we end up seeing Lyra hit a really nice step up enziguri, as well as a crossbody and a fisherman's buster. She's just on another tier, like, it's absolutely crazy. Io hits a crossface, and then she ends up going into the sky, and then we end up seeing Lyra going for her finisher. Io ends up reversing it, but then Lyra ends up reversing it into a roll-up, so Lyra is moving on to the finals of the Queen of the Ring tournament. I'm kind of bummed that it's not going to be Io, but I'm so excited for Lyra. I feel like this is a really great way to solidify her as a really top talent within the women's division, especially since she's only just come up from NXT. There was a moment where Jackie Redmond goes into the ring to kind of talk with Lyra about what's been happening, and then Io ends up getting upset. And then Lyra is talking to her about how she's obviously going to win the Queen of the Ring tournament, and how 3 weeks ago she couldn't imagine being in this moment. So I'm really happy for her. I feel like the match that we're going to be getting at Queen of the Ring with Lyra and whoever qualifies from SmackDown is going to be really good. Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate are catching up with R-Truth. They're a little bit confused with what's going on with Truth. Truth is just talking some absolute nonsense. And then the Miz comes in, and Miz is like, look, this whole thing with the Judgment Day, it's all about numbers. We need to have somebody in our corner. And Truth is like, I've called upon Andre. And the Miz is like, do you mean Andrade? And he's like, no, like Andre the Giant. And Miz is like, he passed away 30 years. It was just a really weird segment. It's just Miz being Miz, Truth being Truth. Then we ended up seeing Kayla and Ilya are talking backstage, obviously, about the fact that Ilya is not progressing within the King of the Ring tournament. He said he has no shame. He said he set the bar, and he obviously wants to go ahead and wrestle somebody who's broken him several times in the future, obviously alluding to Gunther. Ricochet comes in and says, hey, before you say anything about setting the bar high, just know that this isn't over. And then Bron Breakker literally runs in and like spears Ricochet through a bunch of just machinery and all this stuff backstage, and it was just absolutely chaos chaotic. So Adam Pearce has got a really big issue on his hands, and his name is Bron Breakker. I love it. I feel like he's causing carnage, and it's actually fantastic. Video recap reminder segment of the quarterfinals from last week. Now, this was Kofi and Gunther, and then we had Jay and Ilya from last week ultimately giving us the match, which is Jay Uso versus Gunther in the main event. Gunther's cutting a promo as he's walking down the stairs in the arena, and he said that he made fun of Jay last month, and now there are thousands of people that will be sitting in these seats cheering for him in this match. He said, but what I do is I take hope away and I drag people back to reality, and I'm going to be showing Jay who the better wrestler is within this match. Sure, you might be a really great showman, but I'm going to show you why I am superior. Then we ended up saying we're going to be having a fatal four-way match for the potential to be a contender for the Women's Tag Team Championships, which will be happening later on in the evening. And we saw the Judgment Day is backstage getting ready for their match against Miz and Truth, and they're talking about how they want to bring the tag titles back to the Judgment Day. And Damien's like, look, I heard what you did to Cruz. Now, he's obviously talking to Carlito in this moment, and he's like, are you trying to lay low in the Judgment Day clubhouse? Like, what is going on? Like, you can't really do that, but if you are going to try and do that, you need to earn your keep. Then there's a really cute moment with Finn Balor and Damian Priest where Finn was like, I really just wish it was just me and you with these titles again. And I was like, that's a bit sad. Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler are talking backstage about their tag match when we see a returning Sonya Deville, and I could not be more excited. First of all, she looks fantastic. She looks stunning. I cannot wait to see what she does, but she wants to try and talk to Zoe and Shayna is not having a bar of it. What I think is going to happen is I think that Sonya is going to be managing the team of Zoe and Shayna, and I feel like that is like a winning combination. I love Sonya Deville. I feel like her in an authority figure role, her in like a managerial role figure, I feel like that would be insane, and it would definitely help propel Zoe and Shayna up the ranks. I cannot wait to see what they do here. Tag match between R-Truth and The Miz taking on Judgment Day. Now, it was Finn Balor and JD McDonough that were taking part for the Judgment Day in this match, and the match starts off with Balor and Miz. Truth ends up hitting a really nice leg drop, and then we end up seeing The Miz breaking down JD McDonough. Dominic ends up distracting the ref, and then Finn Balor ends up taking advantage during this moment, but then we see Truth coming in and Balor ends up breaking him down. Truth goes for the STF, which then Balor ends up reversing into a sling blade. Carlito comes out to assist Judgment Day, but then it doesn't really work in their favor because Braun Strowman comes out to be in the corner of R-Truth and The Miz. Then he ends up sending Carlito flying, and then he chases JD back into the ring to get the pin, so Miz and Truth remain the tag team champions. I think it's just really interesting how Braun's just coming in and just absolutely wreaking shop as well too. He's doing a phenomenal job. I'm so happy he's back as well. Lyra runs into Becky before Becky ends up making her way out to the ring, and obviously they're celebrating the win. Liv ends up running into Lyra and congratulates her from the win for the tournament, and then she's like, well, I'm surprised you didn't have Becky in your corner this week. And then she goes, speaking of, so she tries to fake out Lyra. Lyra turns around, and then when she turns back, she ends up slapping Lyra Valkyria. I'm like, No. Sammy's backstage and he ends up running into Bronson Reed, and Bronson says, all I care about is business and this is how I'm going to be making my money, and he's talking about the IC title match at the King and Queen of the Ring tournament, and he ends up leaving, and then Otis ends up coming in and he actually apologizes to Sammy. He's like, hey, like, I'm really sorry for what happened, like, I don't know what came over me, I'm just really struggling. And Sammy's like, look, you've got to find inside of you the reason why you want to do this, and he points to obviously the crowd and he's like, look, they are the ones you got to do it for, like, you have to find a way to like make this work. Becky Lynch comes out to the ring to cut a promo, and she talks about how she is defending her title in 5 days, and she makes history, and she has broken barriers, and she has done a lot for the women's division, but Liv Morgan has never beaten her. But unfortunately this time around she will be seeing and facing off against a brand new, different Liv Morgan, someone who's hell-bent on revenge, and she's asking, the crowd, is that what it's going to take to beat me? And then Liv comes out and she says that Becky Lynch is doing nothing but gaslighting the entire WWE universe and how it's insane, which I feel like Liv Morgan loves the word insane at the moment, which, I mean, it is what it is. She says, you go ahead and punch me, and then I try and retaliate, and I'm the bad guy. I don't really care anymore because I have purpose, and that is the Liv Morgan revenge tour. And Becky Lynch follows up by saying, you've been in the WWE for 10 years, and you've only just finally now found your purpose. I can't relate because unfortunately I've had this purpose inside of me since I was 15 years old. I've wanted to break barriers. I want equality for everybody. Main eventing WrestleManias, and 22 years later, I still have that same purpose within me. You want revenge? What's going to happen next once you eventually eventually get it. And Liv's like, well, you are delusional. And she tries to convince the crowd that apparently Becky Lynch doesn't care about anybody else but herself, which we all know that is untrue. And she says that after King and Queen of the Ring, she is going to take her rightful place at the top of the women's division when she becomes the women's world champion. Becky's like, look, these people here know that you are lying. I give everything up for them, and they see it. If you really want to fight me, you will come and fight me right now. So she kind of looks like, and this is Liv Morgan I'm referring to, she looks like she's going towards the ring and then she ends up faking out. I'm excited to see this match, I think. I don't know. I don't really think we need to be getting Liv Morgan and Becky Lynch. I feel like it's a little bit too soon to be pulling the trigger on this match. I don't know what's going to happen. Nonetheless, I'm excited to see Becky Lynch defend the title at the Saudi Arabia Premium Live event. Damien is in the Judgment Day clubhouse and they all come back after the match and he's like, look, we have to get back on track. We've got to figure out what's going on. And he asks about what Carlito's doing and he's like, look, this is not a witness protection program. Like, you cannot be here kind of thing. We are in medical with the New Day and we end up finding out that Xavier Woods is now clear, but then we end up seeing Karrion and Scarlett coming in talking about how we need to find more time. Now, this is very similar and reminiscent of what we saw last week with Xavier and Karrion. I'm interested to see what they do with this kind of storyline with the two of them. Maybe they might have a really nice singles feud. I'm not really too sure. We then head back to the ring where we have the Fatal 4-Way match. Now this had the teams of Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler. We had Ivy Nile and Maxine Dupree. We had Kaden Carter and Katana Chance, as well as Dakota Kai and Kairi Sane. This match, I did not write any notes. I literally just enjoyed every single second of it. Obviously, Kaden and Katana were doing their thing with the teamwork that they have. Maxine Dupree actually got a lot of time to show off a lot of the new moves she has learnt, and I'm so happy that she got this moment. You could tell that she's really learnt a lot, and you can tell that she's enjoying herself in the ring, and she's just flowing a lot nicer. I'm so happy that she got this moment. Ivy got a really nice superplex moment, and Shayna and Zoe were just obviously working in synchronicity. They took away the win in this match, and I'm so excited. They get a contender's shot at the Women's Tag Team Championships. I could not be more excited for my girls. I'm so happy because I freaking just need them to be champion already. I was going to swear just then, but I just really need them as champions already. Like, it's actually so incredibly disheartening how long it's taken for both of them to eventually get a title. So I'm hoping that they get this moment. We see Kayla and Ludwig are backstage and they are talking about Gunther going up against Jey Uso and mentioned Sheamus somehow, and Ludwig is just really concerned and confused about how, Sheamus is, a legend in his own right, but now he's become more of a keyboard warrior, and if he really wants to go ahead and fight me, he will put him down. Drew comes in, he starts talking a whole lot of nonsense, as he always does. Drew just blames other people for his own problems, and talks about Damian Priest and about how he's going to be getting this rematch opportunity for the World Heavyweight Championship. I'm assuming they're going to be doing it at Clash of the Castle. It could be wrong, but it just feels like it makes sense. Chad Gable is joking around with the Creed brothers backstage, and I did see something in the background that I do want to mention. I saw Zoe and Shayna and Sonya talking. So I feel like we are going to be getting the moment I mentioned earlier, and I need it so badly. Otis comes in and he talks to Chad about how he has apologized to Sami Zayn. And he's like, why would you do that? Why would you do that? Like, you're completely going against everything I told you. And then he has this moment where he's like, oh, I see what you're doing. You're trying to soften Sammy up for Saudi Arabia, which I don't think he is, but that's okay. Jey Uso cuts a promo backstage before he makes his way out to the ring for the match against Gunther, and he talks about how he almost had Gunther last time they wrestled and how he's going to finish off the job. He ends up walking all the way from backstage in one single shot out to the ring where he makes his entrance. Crowd just goes absolutely crazy for him, as we expect when it comes to Jey Uso these days. We have the main event, which is Jey Uso taking on Gunther. Now, this is the semi-final for the King of the Ring tournament. Obviously, whoever wins this is going into the final. I really enjoyed this match. It was really hard hitting. It was a fast-paced match as well too for Gunther, which I really enjoyed because sometimes Gunther's matches can feel like they go on for a lot longer than they do, and that's not a bad thing. I really enjoyed Gunther's wrestling style. I just really liked seeing a faster-paced version of his in-ring work. So he's chopping Jey down from the very beginning of this match, but then Jey ends up firing back and he ends up flying through the ring ropes, and then Gunther ends up sending Jey into the ring post and into the ring steps, focusing on the arm because he realizes very early on that Jey's arm might not be 100%, so he starts to use it to his advantage. We hit the commercial break, and then when we come back, we still see that Gunther is punishing Jay. Jay ends up hitting a really nice Samoan drop as well as a crossbody, and then Gunther is just chopping Jay down. Jay hits a really nice step up enziguri, and then he ends up trying to beat down on Gunther with one arm. Gunther and Jay end up exchanging chops. We see a really nice spear and splash combo coming in from Jay, and he actually gets a 2 count on that. But then obviously both of them are fighting back and forth, and Gunther ends up actually locking in a sleeper hold onto Jay Uso. Jay ends up fading out, and Gunther wins the match. He is going into the finals of the King of the Ring tournament. I'm so happy. I need to see Gunther as King of the Ring ASAP, because I don't want anybody else other than Randy Orton or Tama Tonga. But I feel like Gunther being King of the Ring, it just feels right in my heart. So I'm happy. It almost looked like towards the end of the match he wasn't going to win, but he finally did. I'm super stoked. I cannot wait to see what happens in the weekend when it comes to King and Queen of the Ring. And that brings us to the end of the Monday Night Raw review for this week. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you go ahead and like it. Leave a comment down below about something that you enjoyed about Monday Night Raw this week, who you think is going to win the King and Queen of the Ring tournaments. I'd love to know what you guys think. While you're there, go ahead and check out the description where you can find all the links for where you can find Outcasted OC on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, as well as all of our personal social medias, so you can keep up to date with what we're doing when we're not posting on here. As always, you have your regularly scheduled NXT review coming in this week, as well as the podcast. We will be giving you all of our King and Queen of the Ring predictions ahead of the show, as well as the SmackDown review, which will be the SmackDown before King and Queen of the Ring. Potentially there will be a live stream for King and Queen of the Ring, but we will confirm if that is happening or not on the live stream when we do the podcast this week. So that's why you want to also subscribe and turn on the bell icon so you do not miss any of our notifications. You're notified every single time we upload a video or a podcast, so you don't miss anything. Like I say, go ahead and follow all the socials, because we keep up to date with everything we're doing there, so you do not miss any of our content. I'll see you guys in the podcast this week. Bye guys.